Characters. Who are they? What are they? Who will they become? So much goes into the creation of a character, their backstory, culture, beliefs, image, eye color, description, personalities, and so much more. As readers, we only get a glimpse of what truly goes into each character. So grab a beverage and get comfortable as we explore this episode's character in depth with your host, Madilynn Dale. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Character Driven. I am extremely excited about this episode because we are going to be talking about a character that is actually kind of on my favorites list. This series featuring this character was in my top 10 books last year for 2022. Got to make sure I say the year right. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear about this character, get the backstory, and hopefully you'll go check out this series as well. But without further ado, let me bring in the amazing author and creator of this series.
Hi.
Hey.
Me again.
Yes. So in case we've got some viewers on here that have never met you before, go ahead and introduce yourself and give them a brief intro into the series we're going to be talking about.
I am USA Today bestselling author Lily Luchesi, and I write urban fantasy, paranormal, and mystery for both adults and teenagers. And the series we're going to be talking about today are the Paige Papillon Paranormal Mysteries, who Paige seems to be a big favorite of everyone at Go Indie now, which makes me very happy. I initially wrote the character due to my mother's love of cozy mysteries and our mutual love of the paranormal, so I'm very happy to be here talking about her.
Yes, and I love Paige because I found her very, very relatable, very much like myself. So it was really nice and refreshing to read her story. But enough of me jabbering away and telling about how much I enjoyed it. Let's talk about Paige. Who is Paige and what is life like for
her? Paige lives a very independent life, and was written purposefully. She comes from a family. She is only a second generation American, such as myself. My grandfather came here when he was a child from Calabria. So my family has a similar backstory to hers, where they had to find their own way. They didn't have, this big, rich history of most of their family. That was all they had.
Yeah.
So the reason she lives this independent lifestyle is she didn't want to be controlled by that background. Mm-hmm. And so when we meet her, she's a recent college graduate of criminal justice and criminal science, forensic science. And she wants to be a police officer because she loves mysteries. And one of the things she says in the first book is, helping people is nice, solving mysteries is what I'm actually here for, because people have told her that is a bad thing. That she's just solved the mysteries. And that's one of the first things you get to know about her, is that despite that, she fails going into the police academy because she's too nice.
Which is crazy. And I love that her character is nice, but that should totally not be held against her.
And that is actually what her sergeant said. And that is why her sergeant and his wife become her benefactors to start her private investigation business, which she does not think she's going to be hunting ghosts the first time around.
Which is crazy how she gets pulled into that. Is it too much of a spoiler to give a little detail on that? How she gets pulled in?
No, I'm not completely. Book one, I'm going to have to spoil a little bit in order for people really want to get into reading it. And again, like I said, Paige, she just wanted to solve mysteries. One of the first cases she gets is a missing dog that actually, when she finds the dog, it is this little white fluffy poodle and is covered in a victim's blood. Ooh. And the victim that the dog is found on, that's kind of how Paige gets drawn into this mystery, because her little missing dog case winds up finding a corpse. Mm. And there are corpses being found all over Chicago with very weird ways that they've died. And they finally find this tiny little spot on them where but it's not a place a human would normally die. So I don't want to give all of that away. And Paige and her benefactors, unfortunately, well, the benefactors aren't supposed to be involved in this whatsoever. So when Paige finds out all of the things that she's read about and enjoyed in paranormal fiction her whole life are real, it's not so much fun anymore.
No, it's not. And it really is a very unique spot that gets overlooked quite a bit, if I recall right.
Yes. It was actually something I had read randomly in another book. It had to do with someone who had accidentally gotten splashed with spinal fluid and what spinal fluid tasted like. And that one little line that I had read once years ago stuck with me so much. I'm like, I'm going to use that somehow.
Ooh. Yuck. Oh, a little more about Paige. She's a unique character in that she's neurodivergent, and that's something I found very relatable, being neurodivergent. And it's what inspired you to kind of tie that in with her?
Me. I have always been what people would quote unquote call strange, and I didn't find out I was neurodivergent until I was 26 years old. And now that I look back thinking about it, had I known, because I think my school's always kind of thought maybe I was, because I was one of the kids who would always get pulled out for like random testing. When they would just pull the stranger kids out of the classroom and they could never find anything wrong with me, because being neurodivergent, there's nothing wrong with you. Your brain just operates differently. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad thing. And a lot of times when you get autistic characters in books, they're, savants, or they're, like Sheldon Cooper, which I'm gonna be honest with you, Sheldon from Big Bang Theory, I can be a lot like him. So he's not too far off the mark.
Yeah.
But a lot of people forget about being autistic, the hyper empathy, the looking at small details as opposed to looking at the big picture, which is extremely helpful in solving mysteries. So I wanted to have a character who was openly autistic, who functions normally in society. Like before she becomes a PI, she's a manager of a coffee shop. She has a normal job, a normal life. She has friends.
Yeah.
She's not super close with her family. That's her choice personally because of her career, not because of. So I wanted to make sure that there was a character out there that, especially neurodivergent, female or female presenting, could relate to. Because another thing is, with neurodivergent women being written, they're often written as so, quiet and docile, and Paige is not that.
No.
She speaks her mind, and if she wants you to know something, you know it. And that's another thing that I get a lot. I actually just got this recently from someone I thought was a friend. Oh, you're too intense with your opinions. I know. Being intense is a good thing. And again, I wanted a character who was like that. I wanted a character who was that intense about the things that she enjoyed.
Yeah, and sugarcoating stuff is never a good thing anyway, so in my opinion. But I love that about Paige. She was honest. She was brutally honest, put her stuff out there, and I loved that about her.
In a warehouse by a former, she's not sure if the CIA agent, spy, she's not sure, but someone holding a gun, a 9mm, to her head. And she, instead of being scared, she yells at this person. That's not the normal thing that most people would do, but Paige just does not care. She's like, no, put down that gun. I want information now. Yeah. And she gets her information. And there's going to be a conversation in one of the future books where she talks to the person who held the gun on her. And that person tells her, she's like, that's why I liked you. That's why I knew we made the right choice with you, because you were not scared of me. Where this person who was holding the gun, as you're going to find out in later books, everyone's scared of her. Everybody. And this tiny little 5 foot tall, 100-pound girl with pink hair is like, nope, not scared of you.
Yes, I love it. Oh, man. What do you feel was Paige's biggest growth that occurred from when you started writing her series to where you're at now?
It's two things that kind of tie into each other, because it's both with socialization. And again, these are things that I personally have had issues with, and I wanted to put them into the character. Paige, well, she had friends. She didn't have a lot of them. She was not good at conversing, not good at holding a conversation. Some of the things, again, she's too intense, too awkward sometimes, and people just don't always want to interact with that type of person. she finds her circle. And she's able to be herself and be the social person that she wants to be because of the people that she meets and gets to know. And they're varied. You know, there's male, female, older than her, younger than her. There's going to be a bunch of different people. And the other thing is she also, and again, this is something I dated a lot, serious relationships, again, had some issues with the communication. And she finds someone who, when she first meets him, she has a sensory overload breakdown, which sensory overload is another thing that I use a lot as tools in the series. And when he meets her and she has that breakdown, he helps her instead of judging her. And that's kind of the main thing, is she finds someone upon first meeting who's like, no, I like you anyway, and I want to be there for you. I'm not judging you for what's wrong with you. Too is that she gets almost all of the people in her life have lied to her at some point for their own self-preservation, and there's more secrets that are coming out in the last 2 books. There's more secrets that you are going to find out, and people who have read some of my other books are either going to be like, I fucking knew it, or holy shit, why did you do this, how did you, it's going to be one of those 2 reactions from prior readers of mine. But yeah, she has to learn how to deal with other people and their thought process instead of just kind of just surging forward.
Yes. And that actually brings me to that next question. How is she, like, how does she handle when the secrets of all of her friends actually come out into the open, and that she has been basically, I mean, it kind of blindsides her? How does she handle all those secrets coming out? I guess that's a better way to word it.
Well, the ones that you see coming out in the first 3 books, like I said, all 4 people in her inner circle are holding secrets at some point, and you find them out per book. With her best friend's secret, it's more of a hurt, like, why didn't you trust me? With her boyfriend's secret, it's more of a, okay, I completely understand why you did not tell me any of this. And with the other 2 people in her life, when their secrets finally come out, that's not until the last book. That's the big finale. She sits there, and instead of being upset with them because they didn't really lie to her, they told her as much truth as possible. And the reason they can't tell her the truth, they tell her right up front, is if they tell her the truth and get back into the paranormal world so deeply, they will die. They will be immediately executed. And she understands that, but her issue is, when she finds out their secrets, is, how did I not figure this out sooner? You know, she's ashamed at herself. Like, how did I not know? How did I not realize this very, very obvious thing? And what I'm hoping is that readers also feel the same way she does.
With all the secrets and everything, she has to continue to move forward and do her job. Does knowing anything regarding them affect how she handles things as she continues to move forward?
In book 4, basically, if she didn't know her best friend's secret by book 4, which she figures out in book 1, she's told, she would not be able to help her friend whatsoever. She would not be able to help find a murderer who goes after her friend's family. So in that case, it does help her, and it does help her with the case. And in book 3, Werewolf Worries, finding out her boyfriend's secret also enables her to help him solve and finalize the case. It's going to be secrets that are revealed in book 5 by her mentors that are going to stop her, because there's going to be a brand new villain introduced. This villain is related somehow in some fashion to one or both of her mentors, and I'm going to say if it's just one or both of them. And due to that, the way that she has to proceed with this villain is going to be extremely different, because her mentors actually hired her to find this villain. They are the ones funding her. They are her clients right now. And so she has to listen to them about what to do with this villain. So she's sitting there compromising her own morals and her own views, which she's never had to do before, to sit there and be like, okay, do I really have to let this crazy person go?
Man, that's going to be rough.
It's going to be very rough, very rough. Actually, I Frankenstein my books, or I write bits and pieces, sometimes even if I'm not actively focusing on that book, and I have part of the scene written. I'm leading up to the part where she is being demanded by one of her benefactors, Vera, you do not kill this person. And I'm trying to figure out what her reaction is, because I have her reaction in my head, but it's going to be very difficult putting that on the page. Her internal conflict of, and that also goes back to the autism, where we have very strong opinions, very strong internal feelings about justice. So Paige has to sit there and be like, I can't bring justice because of who this random person is.
Man.
We do. It's going to, but that same justice meter of what is right and what is wrong, there is something else that's going to come into play. And I've discussed this before on other shows, where it is the reverse chosen one, where she does get approached with a deal, where she makes this deal, she can have a bit more of her morals intact. But by making this deal, she would break even more of her code of right and wrong. So we're going to see her stand up to someone who has literally never been stood up to ever in centuries.
Get it, Paige. Love it.
Yeah, all of her, especially Vera, because Vera has had to deal with this person before. She's going to be very happy with Paige. She's going to, because Vera's not going to be happy with Paige for a lot of this book. They're going to be at odds quite a bit. And Vera is a character very dear to my heart. Vera has tried to take over the series before, and Paige is like, nope, mine, get out.
I believe it, because she's got a strong personality too. And speaking of personalities and everything, how does her personality change when she discovers more about her significant other?
It's not as much of a personality change as it is her sitting back and thinking, what I knew about this person doesn't change, but what I know about this person's secret does change, where she has to sit down and think, oh, such and such type of, the secret that he holds is not as bad as I was led to believe, because she wants to be a detective due to her favorite book series, the Angel St. Vincent series, which Vera actually is the writer of. That's not a big spoiler. Her mentor is actually her favorite author. And again, I wanted to bring books, of course, as much as the series. Paige is an avid reader. So in Vera's books, something that has to do randomly, this is not, a coincidence or anything, something that has to do with her boyfriend's secret, is also something now Paige's view has to be challenged with in real life. Oh, Angel St. Vincent's view on this that Paige adopted isn't true anymore. But because Paige is also in a severe time crunch in order to save many, many lives, she has to sit there and process it through her head, almost like you would see like a computer going, like all the code that's going on in her head, to make sure that she also is doing everything in a timely manner.
With her starting her own PI firm in the start of the series, what are some of the things you had to pull from real life to portray that in the story?
I had to do so much research because every state is different in how you get licensed, so I had to make sure. That's how I decided, what her criminal background was going to be in college, the criminal justice background. And I had to time everything properly, which is another big reason she needed the benefactors in order to expedite things. Of course, money expedites everything. So in order to make sure she had space lease, that she had advertisements sent out, that she had time to procure all the licenses she needed. So yeah, I sat there and did a lot of boring research on something I knew very little about. But it was worth it in the end, in order to make sure that, someone's not reading this book like, okay, the most unrealistic thing here is her career. When that's actually the most realistic thing of the whole book, is the fact that she's a PI.
Yeah, it ties it into real world for sure. And how does she end up shifting gears for her business when the supernatural is exposed to her?
She winds up getting the crash course again from her mentors, Vera and Vera's husband, Vera's husband is the person who recommended Paige to be a PI and convinced his wife, hey, this girl is. You actually find out why he convinced his wife in book 5. That hasn't been revealed yet. There actually is another reason why he wanted everything set up for her. The recommendation, a small part of the reason, which isn't going to be a spoiler, but it's going to be expanded upon greatly in book 5, is my worlds are all connected in all of my books. The Paige Papillon Paranormal Mysteries are set after the ending of the Paranormal Detective series. When the Paranormal Detective series ends, the reason, there are no more cases for the paranormal investigators is because they shut down. So now when people have petty paranormal crime, they have nowhere to go. So once Paige discovers that the paranormal world is real, her name keeps getting bounced around from the people she saved in the paranormal world. So unless she turns away her clients, she's just kind of getting paranormal clients showing up at her office. Book 4 is going to start with apprentice witch coming and asking if she can help with a problem. And she just walks into her office, and Paige is sitting there thinking, like, can I please get another missing dog again? Because she just did not sign up for this. She did not sign up for werewolves and fae cafe, none of this crazy stuff that's going on. But the reason that she is so heavily sought out by the paranormal world is she is their only resource now. Whereas they used to have a multinational company helping them and helping keep the world safe. They're gone completely. The only thing left of them are novels that were written that people think are fiction. So now it's up to Paige to help people. When initially she did not want to help. She just wanted to solve mysteries, find lost things, whatever it was.
Man. Yeah. Does becoming that paranormal PI instantly create the enemies for her?
Not as much, because she's not going after high profile criminals until, well, book 3 are some high profile criminals, but they don't have the network to give her enemies. Whereas come book 4, she's going to make some very big enemies merely by, yes, just being associated with the paranormal and saying, yes, I'm going to take on this very random murder case that just happened. So book 4, you're going to see her with some enemies. But the thing, and this is going to be explained a bit more, but I can say it here without spoilers, Vera and her husband John, they don't want her in danger. So they would not have set her up if they thought that she would be making the enemies that the former paranormal investigators made. The worst of the criminals have already been vanquished, and now it's more like petty crime in the paranormal world that no one else but Paige can deal with.
But unfortunately, I feel like there's always new ones that arise, even in real life, with that kind of thing.
And that's where book 5 comes in, where a character, again, the villain that comes in, the villain was mentioned a couple of times in a previous book of mine, not in this series. All of my books are connected. The Coven series, Paranormal Detective, they're all connected. So this villain was mentioned once and had a couple of scenes, but was not a villain. But as the villain shows up, she wants to basically resurrect an old enemy, almost. But it's not just one. I don't want to spoil anything. But it's a extremely vicious undertaking that this woman is going to do, this villain, and Paige has to sit there and realize, I'm facing the big bad. She hasn't had a big bad. She's just had smaller criminals. This is something huge and potentially world-ending.
Man, she's going to get shifted into a whole new realm of PI stuff and paranormal then.
Yeah, this is part of the reason why her mentors are the ones who, quote unquote, hire her to take this job, because it is going to be such a huge difference in undertaking. And they can't give anything but moral and financial support. They can't help her as much as they want to. So that's why they hire her, is to make sure she is as protected as possible while she faces something that is so huge and potentially catastrophic.
Man, she is going to have her hands full.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is, especially considering the type of acolytes that the villain is going to have is something that she was told factually, you will never, ever in a million years have to face this type of acolyte. Ever. You don't need to know anything about it. Don't worry, your training will focus. It's impossible. It's not impossible.
Yeah, nope. Never say never, guys. Never say never.
And you think Vera would know that, but she doesn't. And this is also going to show where she's going to have her boyfriend, her best friend's wife. All there, she's going to need everyone. And that's another thing that's going to be different for her. She needs to learn to rely on everyone to have her back. Whereas before, she had everyone's back. But now she needs the support.
Oh, man. And she does have a team slowly start building together from the start of the series.
Yes.
Man, wow. Lily, go ahead and tell our listeners and viewers where they can snag copies of this series and follow you.
You can follow me. My link is here. Kind of. I have a hard time with the camera being reversed. Sorry. And you can find the Paige Papillon Paranormal Mysteries. They're exclusive on Amazon KU, and they also are in paperback. So if you prefer a physical copy like I do, you can get one. If you contact me, I also have book plates that I do send out. It takes some time because I have to get more printed, but please do contact me. Again, all my contact information is in the link tree right there. And thank you for having me on to talk about Paige. I actually have 2 books I have to write for my pen name before I can get back to her. And I'm very excited to get these last 2 books out into the world. Also, readers, I know that you guys don't like unfinished series, quote unquote. The books are all standalones. You can read each one on their own. You will find out maybe a couple random spoilers, but there is no cliffhanger. 0 cliffhangers. You can read these books and be completely satisfied with their endings. So please don't look and say, well, books 4 and 5 aren't out yet, so I don't know. Please read them. Please enjoy them in the meantime while I get these last 2 books finished up.
Yes, you guys will not regret reading the series either. It is addictive, and I think I finished it like all in one weekend, all it's out. So, but yeah. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. And remember, it's always time to go indie now.
But the dead told her nothing, unless they were this killer's previous victims. If so, that meant this wasn't an ordinary serial killer. This was a bloodthirsty monster. She decided to check another box of people who might be alive. She went up the ladder again, and as she grabbed another box and began to climb back down, a smaller stack began to sway from her movements. The topmost box fell over with an echoing crash. This was locked. The fall shattered the rusty lock, spilling its contents all over the cement floor. As she glanced at the mess, she saw something that made her heart stutter in her chest. What was in the box looked like employee IDs for what appeared to be the FBI and MI5 in one. Dozens of them, all with different names and addresses, even different hairstyles, but all with the same face. Vera King's face. Paige gasped, glancing at the IDs. You could tell Vera once had over 24 aliases. Some were variations of her name and others more unusual. Once, she even used the Angel St. Vincent as a code name, as well as variations of the word.